Hello, the Umbraco universe. My name is John, and in this video I'm going to walk you through a deep dive session into the Umbraco Models Builder. So specifically in this video we're going to be looking at Umbraco Model Builder in V9. I'm going to walk you through what it is, what it actually has to offer, and how you can configure it to generate models in different ways. So by the end of this video you'll know the optimal configuration for Models Builder for your project. Now, if you haven't come across the Models Builder before, it's a super useful tool for us developers. So when it's enabled, what it will do will generate C# objects for you based on the document types that the content editors create inside of the CMS. Now, using a tool to create these models for you is super handy. First, it means that you didn't have to write any of that boring boilerplate code yourself. Second, because we're going to be doing strongly typed objects, you can start using things like IntelliSense when you're writing your code. Also means that we can rely on the compiler when things get changed. So if someone updates the document type in the CMS, we can regenerate the models, click compile, and then the compiler is going to point us to the exact line number in our code where things have gone wrong. And without Models Builder, you're basically going to have to figure this out on your own. So it's like getting a needle from a haystack. So if this all sounds great and fantastic and groovy to you, then this is the video for you. Now, if you haven't come across my videos and you like the Umbraco CMSs, what I recommend you do before we move on is smash the subscribe button very hard right now. I do weekly YouTube videos on developer productivity, CMS development, C#, Umbraco. So if you want to see videos that will help you become the best developer possible, this, my friend, is the YouTube channel for you. Also, while you're there, you may as well click on the like button because one, you like me, and two, I've heard that if you click on like, the world will find you 27% more attractive instantly. So, assuming you're now more attractive, because you definitely look more attractive to me, then let's crack on and have a look at this model building. For this video, I'm going to assume that you know nothing about Umbraco Models Builder, so I'm going to walk you through everything, and by the end you're going to be an absolute pro. So on the screen in front of you, you can see a vanilla Umbraco build. So I've gone through the installer, and this is pretty much it. I've created a single homepage document type, nothing else has been created. Now, in order to get information about how Models Builder has been configured within your website, go to the settings, then click on settings again, and then from the top you're going to get Models Builder. From the screen you're going to get three useful bits of information. First, you're going to get the models mode. So the de facto default one is called in-memory auto. We also have source code automatic and source code manual. So if you've used Models Builder in V8 before, the names have changed slightly of the modes in V9. Fundamentally, they still do the same thing. So we'll go through source code automatic and manual later. For now, we'll just look at in-memory auto mode. And if I'm honest, spoiler, it's a bit useless and I don't recommend you ever use it. But for completeness, let's show you how you can use it if you think this is the way for you. So in-memory mode, as the name suggests, will basically generate the models in memory. So they won't create any assemblies, they won't create any classes. This means that you can't access any of these models in your C# code within Visual Studio. You can only access these bits of models within your Razor views, as you can see here. So other information we have here is the namespace. So obviously this is useful if we're trying to access these models. And we can also see that our models are out of date and that the out of date models is enabled. So we'll cover some of this stuff and how you can configure that later. So if you're new to Umbraco and you don't know anything about document types, within the left-hand side here, you can create different types of templates. They're called document types. So I've created this homepage one, and as you can see down the bottom, it's got a property on it, which is called text. Now, in the content tab, which is this one here, you can construct a website using these document types. So clicking on create new page right here, we can create a new page of type homepage. And the one I've created previously has this option of text, and it's got a value of test. And this is the thing that we want to render out within our web page. Now, Umbraco provides you the ability to create document types and create all the HTML completely inside of the editor. So in theory, you don't need to use Visual Studio. Now, the downside of creating everything in the CMS are quite large, if I'm honest. First, you'll be making all your changes on the fly, so there's no version control, there's no way to easily revert things. Second, you won't be committing any of your code into source control, so if the server dies, you make a mistake, the file gets deleted, there's no way of returning it. Finally, you've also got the goodness of impacting your user experience. So as you're making changes on the fly, your real world users are also going to be impacted. So I don't recommend that you ever try and just completely build a website inside the CMS. However, it is possible, and that's why we have this in memory mode. So let's have a look at how we can edit HTML on the fly. On our homepage document type, we have this thing called a template. So templates basically map to an MVC view. So if I look to my web root, which I can fire up, you can see that I've got a view here, and I've got a view which is called Hello CS HTML. So this Hello CS HTML file corresponds to this template here. Now within the editor, within the templating template section, we've got an option to edit this view. So this code here, as soon as I click save, it's going to update that view on the web root, and as you can see, when I refresh the website, my changes are automatically going to get pulled through. So if I just do a H1, hello sexy YouTuber, and I'm talking about you, especially the men and the women with the beards. God, I love a woman with a beard. Sexy. So as you can see, done a refresh, hello sexy YouTuber. So when we're working with Models Builder in memory auto mode, we can access the models from here basically. So what we can do is make sure that we're importing from our namespace. So remember when we looked at the configuration details, it told us the namespace we should use, so we'll use that. And then you want to do the inherits umbraco.cms.web.commonviews.umbraco view page, and then you can do content models.homepage. And homepage here is based on the name and the alias. So look here, we've got alias, homepage, content models, homepage. So in order to access a data from our model, we just do an at model, and then I think the property is called text. So if I click save and I do a refresh, I should hopefully see the value test. So in memory auto mode is really useful if you want to do this type of development inside of Umbraco. For me, it's a complete waste of time, but that's the whole point of it. Now, in case you're wondering how you change different modes, don't you worry, I'll explain it. So in Umbraco v9, what we've got now is app.settings.json. Previously, we used to have web.config. However, a lot of the stuff from web.config and the config folder in Umbraco v9 has moved into app settings, and configuring Models Builder is one of those things. So within your app settings.schema.json, if you go to Umbraco, then CMS, then Models Builder, then Models Mode. And as you can see here, we've got it set in memory. So what we're going to look at next is how we configure the Models Builder with the different modes. The next mode that we're going to look at is called Source Code Auto Mode. Now this mode is definitely more prevalent for all of us cool developers out there, because it's going to allow us to work with models in our Visual Studio code base. So we're going to generate some classes, we can then access those classes, job's going to be amazing. So in order to change mode, simply change our models mode right here to Source Code Auto Mode. Now when you make this change, if you go into the CMS and look at the settings models builder, what you'll see is the models mode has changed, and you can see that the strongly typed models are generated on demand and anytime a schema change is made. So this is going to be a recompilation is necessary to make the models available to the C#. So basically this means that whenever we make a change within here, we're going to get a C# class, but we won't access that class in code until we compile it. I'll walk you through it because it's a bit long-winded. So going back to our code bases. When things are in the source code mode, what we'll do is look in the Solution Explorer. Hopefully we're looking in Solution Explorer. There it is. So when we go to Solution Explorer, if you look within the Umbraco folder, in here you'll see a file called models. And within models, you'll see a bunch of these generated files. So you can see we've got one for the home page and we've got one for hello. So clicking on home page, you're going to see pretty much code similar to this. So at the top, we're going to get this auto-generated warning. Change will be lost if you try and tinker around with it. We're going to see the namespace that we saw within the model builder configuration. We've got a class which maps to the alias that we've created. And then within here, we've got these properties, and all these properties are basically going to map to the properties that we created inside of the CMS. So let's have a look at this. We don't have anything in here called John at the moment. So if I go back to the CMS, create a new document type, I'm going to call it John, save it. This has been saved. If I go back to settings, models builder, you can see that tracking model is enabled. If we go back to our Webby root, you can see now that we've got this john.generated.cs, and I didn't have to do anything myself. Nice. The final mode within Umbraco Models Builder is called Source Code Manual Mode. So again, just change the model mode here. Now the difference between manual and automatic, you can probably guess. Automatic, the file is going to be auto-generated for you. Manually means that you're going to have to go into the CMS, click that generate models button before those classes get generated inside of Umbraco models folder. So aside from that, those two things are exactly the same. So we have these three models: in memory, source code auto, and source code manual. We also have some additional capabilities on how we can configure the models builder. So we'll cover those now. So as you can see, all the configurations are all still done within the app settings. So the first one we're going to look at is models directory. So remember when I said out of the box, all the models are going to be generated in Umbraco.models. You don't have to put up with this default behavior. If you want to put your model somewhere else, you can use this models directory and you can whack it wherever you need to. Now, if I'm honest, the useful thing about this mode is when you consider using a class library within your projects. Now, models directory is a virtual path, so I should highlight that when you're setting it, you'll always need to start with a tilde and a slash. So let's talk about the generating your models within a class library. So first off, by default, and the security that Umbraco comes with out the box, considers generating classes outside of the web root a security violation. So if you want to start using your models in your class library, you're going to have to use this except unsafe models directory. So this needs to be set to true. If it's set to false and you start trying to generate your classes in a different folder outside of your web root, security error, computer says no. So in this example here, I'm going to create all my models within a folder underneath my web root. And if I have a look in my Windows Explorer and zooms in a little bit, yeah, that didn't really work. But what you'll see is I've got my Umbraco project here, which is called Umbraco V9, and then I've got my Umbraco models folder here. So this is possible easily by just setting the models directory and then setting accept unsafe models directory. Now, one of the reasons why you might want to set this, as I was saying, is because of class libraries. So let's think about it. If we created an additional class library now called, Umbraco9 default.core or custom code or whatever you want to call it, and you wanted to access these models here within that class library, you would have to add a reference to the website project in order to access these files within that class library. Now, because we're creating a class library, the chances are that you'll want to use the code that you're creating in your class library within this website project. So then within your website project, you're going to add in a reference to the class library. And as soon as you start doing that, Visual Studio is going to go, nah, what you playing at, you doofus. This is going to create a circular reference. So what happens is when you try to compile the website will try and recompile the class library will try and recompile the website will then try and compile the class library, so it's just not going to work. So this is the reason when you're using a class library and you want to use Models Builder, you're going to have to generate your models into a third class library. So this is what I generally do, is I have a website, I'll have a class library to put my custom code in, then I'll create a specific class library just to generate the models in. And all you need to do really is create the library, pass your models in, set accept unsafe models directory. Simple. Now it's also possible to change the default namespaces. So as you can see, we've got models, namespace, and I've called my new one hit like now. You know, we're halfway through the video, hit like, do it, don't forget. And what will happen is that when we look within our generated class, you can see that the namespace has been updated. Hit like now. So the two final properties that we can use with the Models Builder, if I'm honest, a bit useless, but it's worth telling you about them. First, we have Debug Level. Now, when Models Builder first came out, it was a bit complicated trying to get it up and working. There's like APIs and different modes and that kind of stuff. So you can actually set different amounts of debugging logging level when models are being generated. If I'm honest, since V9, I've never had any problems. I don't think you're going to have any problems. So you might want to set this to 1 if you want to get additional information. The default value is 0, and this means that, you know, just log things normally. Now we can also set the flag out of date models. We can set that to true. That's basically going to mean that in the CMS, you're not going to get a warning when the models are out of date. Again, it's kind of pointless. I don't really see why you need that. Now, if we look within the CMS again, you can see that my changes have been updated. So we're in source code manual mode, namespace has been changed, tracking mode is out of date, so we can generate the new models. The final part that we haven't talked about is how can we actually use the models inside of our code. So this is kind of the important bit, right? So I've created a controller and it is called home page controller. Now I'm not going to go into root hijacking in this video. Root hijacking is basically the name in Umbraco of mapping up a controller to a document type. The most important thing is basically have an alias that maps within the CMS and then inherit from this render controller. Now in order to create a model, you're going to have to basically add 2 constructors. So the first constructor parameter is going to be of type iPublishContent, and this represents the generic current request data. So whenever you create a controller from render controller, you're going to have access to this public property called current page. So basically this means that whenever you're setting up a controller and you're ever doing models building, just simply pass in this current page property, job's done, don't need to do anything else. Now the second parameter you need to provide is a little bit more confusing and it doesn't really make that much sense for most people. So the second parameter is of type iPublishedValueFallback. And in order to get access to this type, what you can do is pass it in through the constructor, and using dependency injection, this will automatically get populated by Umbraco. Now for about 99% of people who are building websites in Umbraco, you're never going to care about this iPublishedValueFallback. It's there for basically people who are doing multi-language sites or people who are doing things which are a little bit peculiar. So I'll quickly explain what it is. So when you're getting data from Umbraco, you're saying get a property, get the homepage property. What you can do is actually specify additional overloads. So let's say we're working in a multi-language website. So we've got Spanish, si senor, and English, gov. Now what we can do is say that if we haven't got any Spanish, fall back to some English content. Now obviously trying to do this configuration and every single time that we need to call a property, it's just going to cause loads of bloat and it's going to be really hard to maintain throughout our code base. So what the Umbraco team came up with is this iPublishedValueFallback. And basically what can happen is within this property, you can override things like the culture, the segments, few things like that. And what happens is that when you pass it into the default model builder like this, you can define the fallback properties and that kind of stuff. So again, if you're doing like a multi-language and you want to have fallbacks, if you maybe want to change how the CMS mapping works, you can potentially update segments. Again, for 99% of the people out there, you don't care about this. So what I'd say is that when you're using Models Builder, don't worry about this iPublish value fallback. Don't really worry too much about what it does. All you need to do is basically copy and paste the same page, same bit of code over and over by simply passing in the iPublished value fallback here, passing it in as the second parameter, and then you have the possibility of instantiating a brand new data type with all the CMS data. Then it's going to be all strongly typed. We're going to have all of our beautiful IntelliSense, which I can prove by going home.text. Beautiful. Then finally, and not forgotten, all we need to do is then pass our model into a view. I've updated our hello CSHTML view. So as you can see, when we're using Models Builder, instead of using that inherit common page, you can simply pass in the model. So in our parameter right here, we do @model. We then use the namespace, so Umbraco CMS web common publish models, unless you've changed it like I did to hit the like button. Then we just put in our alias, and then from here we can simply access our models. And there you have it. You are now considered, in my opinion at least, a complete Umbraco Models Builder Pro. And obviously my opinion means nothing, so that was a bit of a waste of your time, wasn't it? Anyway, by now I'm hoping you understand the benefit of Models Builder and how you can configure it. Now personally, whenever I'm building my websites, I always set things up to run in source code manual mode, and I also have all my library and all my classes generated in a separate class library, so I always have to set the accept unsafe directory thing and also the models directory. Doing all these things is really good because it can allow you to do model first development within Umbraco, and from years of experience, trust me, it's much easier using models than having to manually sort of hard code string names within your code base, because that, quite frankly, is a nightmare, and I never want to do it again in my life because it made me cry. So anyway, I hope you've got some value from this video. Please let me know what your thoughts are around Models Builder below, because I'd be very super keen to know about them. Now this is a series on Umbraco development. I'm getting towards the end of the V9 series. Sadly, I think there's only going to be 1 or 2 videos left. So if you've got any ideas that I haven't covered in the series so far, please let me know below. Now I am in the process of writing and finishing a book on Umbraco V9 and .NET Core. It's available to download at the moment. A few of you legends out there have already purchased the pre-edition. So first, thank you for those legends. If you haven't bought one, be like the other guys so you can get a little clap as well. So yeah, do all the classic YouTube things for me. If you appreciate this video and you'd like to show me a little bit of love, I very much do appreciate it. So first, hit the subscribe button. It does mean a lot to me because it keeps me motivated doing these videos. Also, click on the like button because it helps the YouTube algorithm and it helps my video get shown to more people, and they can like it and show my video to more people. And soon I can do world domination and I'll be running for president of something. Anyway, I hope you've had a good time, an enjoyable time watching this video. Hope you're having a great day wherever you are in this world, and until next time, hit subscribe and happy coding.